What is going on, everybody? Welcome into TTP Sports. Very busy day, and I mean very hectic day, very busy week in terms of this is what I get for going on vacation, and then you gotta go on a freaking backload of work, and then also just on top of it now being October, now Philadelphia sports is literally into overdrive with every sports now because you got now Phillies, Dodgers, Nlds, which we'll be talking about. You got the Eagles, obviously, in midseason, of course. The Flyers will be starting soon. They're in preseason. The Sixers eventually will be starting soon. That means a lot more editing. That means a lot more work for Brodes and Russ. It's been a very busy week, and today is definitely one of the busiest as we prepare for tomorrow's NLDS with the Phillies and the Dodgers starting at 6:30. It should be fun. I'm excited for the series. It's definitely been a very long week of not watching Phillies baseball. Also watching, the wild card series. Those definitely were entertaining. Majority of those series go to 3, except for obviously the Dodgers and the Reds, because the Reds just they're not a playoff caliber team. The Dodgers literally, it was just a glorified bye week for them. They were glorified scrimmage games. They completely torched that Reds team. So, in my personal opinion, that has no impact on what is going to happen in this series whatsoever, because the Reds, they're nowhere to the type of the team that the Phillies are. The Phillies are 100% going to give the Dodgers a way tougher test than what the Reds could have honestly done, because the Reds were not good. It was not good. You see Detroit and Cleveland go 3 games. Detroit moves on. You see the Yankees and the Red Sox go 3 games. The Yankees move on. You see the Cubs and the Padres go 3 games. The Cubs move on. Definitely some crazy series there. It was very entertaining. It's that time of the year again. Playoff baseball. Nothing better. And your Philadelphia Phillies, they have a chance to finally do something in this window, and that's to win a world championship. And it starts tomorrow night, 6:30, with Christopher Sanchez on the bump going up against Shohei Ohtani. So, if we're just looking at the series as a whole, looking at the Dodgers as a whole, reigning World Series champions, they've been there, done that. They make the playoffs nonstop. They know what this time of the year means. Of course, the Dodgers, I would say the Dodgers probably, out of any opponent that the Phillies have faced in this window during their playoff runs, the Dodgers are probably, if you want to also throw in the Houston Astros team that they played in the World Series, this Dodgers team is probably better than that Astros team in 2022, and the Dodgers will probably be the toughest team the Phillies have faced so far in this long stretch of playoff appearances. So this is definitely going to be their toughest test, the Phillies, that is, and I do think the Phillies are up for it. Granted, yeah, you are weaker on the starting pitching rotation, even though you still have a great pitcher in Christopher Sanchez. I do have confidence in Jesus Luzardo with the way that he pitched at the end of the season. Ranger Suarez, it does sound like Aaron Nola might pitch in a Game 4 situation, and then most likely you would have a Christopher Sanchez back for Game 5 in Philadelphia. That's the way that looks like they want to shape out the rotation at that point. So we'll wait and see how that progresses. This series is definitely weird just from the factor of the days off in between. You have a day off in between games 1, and then also obviously the day off for the travel day for games 3 and 4. So that definitely, the start to the series is very weird. Very weird. Never seen anything like it, but most likely because Major League Baseball doesn't want to go up against football on Sunday, but it's probably the case right there. That's why you have an off day on Sunday. Probably the case. So we're looking at this Dodgers team, obviously. You have Shohei Ohtani. They have their starting rotation. Ohtani in the rotation, Yamamoto, Blake Snell, Tyler Glass now. They're throwing some guys into the bullpen to make their bullpen better than what it's supposed to be, because their bullpen is absolute trash. They're throwing Kershaw into the bullpen. They throw Sasaki into the bullpen to try to lengthen it out more. But still, the Dodgers bullpen is the Dodgers bullpen. The bullpen really wasn't that good against the Reds either. They did allow some runs against the Reds. So there is something to that probably. And in the times that the Phillies faced the Dodgers this year, the Phillies have gotten to the Dodgers bullpen. Obviously, I know they played each other in one of the very first few series of the year where the Phillies took 2 of 3. That Sunday game where the Dodgers, I believe, threw a glorified bullpen game because Tyler Glass now couldn't get out of the first couple of innings because his command was all over the place. The Phillies definitely were crushing the Dodgers bullpen at that point. And then when you go into that series in LA not that long ago when both of these teams were still fighting for the last bye week, the Phillies go in there. Yes, it definitely is a concern that the Phillies did not touch the starting pitching of the Los Angeles Dodgers in that series in LA. It definitely is something to point out right there. But once the Phillies got to the bullpen of the Dodgers, the Phillies teed off. And they found a way to win 2 of 3 games, which is very important. And this Phillies team, I think, is so far the better team that they have put out there in postseason action, just from the length of the team, the deepness of the lineup, the bullpen. Is the bullpen better? I'd say the mixed bunch of the bullpen. The starting rotation, you would say, is weaker just because you don't have Zach Wheeler. And granted, with the season that Aaron Nola has given us this far, the starting rotation is still good, but still definitely weaker just because minus Zach Wheeler. So, Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. There's a chance that Will Smith might return into this series. If we're looking at their lineup as an entire thing, is there a deepness to the Dodgers lineup? They definitely have some guys in the bottom of the lineup, but who would I give the advantage for in terms of the way the lineups are just flowing right now? The Dodgers were very up and down in that last stretch of the season. They were very, I would say mediocre. They went on some winning streaks. They went on some long losing streaks. They really couldn't decide what they wanted to do at that point, and that's also a result of the Phillies taking advantage of their schedule and winning their games and going up against good opponents and finding ways to winning series, and then you eventually get that bye week. So, and also playing against the Los Angeles Dodgers on the road in Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers are a very good home team as well. You find a way to win 2 of 3 games there, especially the Phillies in the backstretch having those injuries, not having Trey Turner, obviously not having Zach Wheeler, so you had to deal with that. You found a way. Harrison Bader in the leadoff spot was very, very, very good. You found some length in the lineup. Kyle Schwarber continued to be Kyle Schwarber. Bryce was, still very up and down, but I do expect Bryce Harper, now that the lights are shining bright, he's had so many playoff moments for us in the past few seasons. I expect for Bryce Harper to have more playoff moments this year. Then you have, what they're going to do with the outfield. They're still going to be doing this platoon situation. Brandon Marsh has been very good this year, so we'll see what he can do and carry that into the postseason. Harrison Bader, obviously, I would assume they bat him lower in the lineup now since Trey Turner is back. Trey Turner is going to go back into the leadoff spot. And that definitely is one of the key things for the Phillies in this series is what are you going to get from Trey Turner coming off of that hamstring injury? Is he going to be, when he gets on the base paths, is he going to be a little bit more hesitant with the hamstring? Is he going to go full throttle? Is there going to be a little bit of hesitation there of possibly re-injuring the hamstring? Or is Trey Turner just fully 100% and right from the get-go, he's his pesky self on the base paths and he's out there stealing second base, stealing third base, being annoying, causing, frustrations for the Dodgers pitchers, having them to give that second thought of the runner on the base paths, and maybe that provides some advantage for Schwarber, for Harper, for anybody else in the lineup that's looking to drive in Trey Turner. So that definitely is an X factor right there. If Trey Turner can be what he has been basically the entire season, that's a huge advantage for the Phillies because obviously he won the batting crown, he won the batting title this year, so a good season for Trey Turner. And if he can continue to, find a way to get on base, get singles, if he can find a way to get some extra base hits, that'll be a really huge thing for the Phillies here. And we'll see what Alec Boehm does. Not been the biggest fan of Alec Boehm in the postseason. We'll see what this lineup does entirely against the Dodgers starting pitching, because that's going to be the major factor. Can you get to the Dodgers bullpen early? Can you get these starting pitchers out of the game early? Can you get Shohei Ohtani out of the game? Can you get Yamamoto out of the game? Can you get Blake Snell out of the game? Can you get so-and-so out of the game, whoever the Dodgers are throwing out there on the mound in this series? And that's going to be very crucial for this team to get to that Dodgers bullpen early. That is very crucial. And for the starting pitching on your side, you got to limit the Dodgers to very minimal runs. Christopher Sanchez, very good at Citizens Bank Park. Got to keep the Dodgers intact. Got to keep the Dodgers to maybe limit them to at least 1 or 2 runs. Maybe just that. 1 or 2 runs. And then if the Phillies can get one of those starting pitchers out of the ballgame early, get to that bullpen around maybe the 6th inning or something like that, and it's still, just 2 runs for the Dodgers, there you go. You can work your comeback. You're still in the game. And then you go out and hit the bullpen most likely. That's what you got to do. That's what Christopher Sanchez has to do. That's what Jesus Luzardo has to do. That's what Ranger Suarez has to do. And whatever your Game 4 starter is going to be, whether it's going to be Aaron Nola piggybacked by a Walker Buehler or something like that, still waiting to see what that situation is going to be. But also for the lineup, I think also, you know, I know I'm really going all over the place right here, but there's so much to talk about with this series because a lot of Phillies fans are definitely nervous and definitely, I would say, skeptical or skeptical. I can't even pronounce words right now, so mind me. Uh, because just going into this series throughout the entire year, Phillies fans were really not high on this team, just with the way that they came in from the offseason, where it just felt like the same thing over and over, and they're just running it back, and they're probably going to make the playoffs, but it's just going to result in the same failures that it has been over the past couple of years. And, well, and they're going to be worried about the bats going cold in the playoffs, obviously. Okay, if are the bats going to be the reason why the Phillies lose in the playoff once again, and they fail out on going on another deep playoff run and possibly winning a World Series in maybe the final few years of this window? And yeah, that definitely is a major concern because you never know with this Phillies team because, yes, the lineup is still very hot and cold. But I did see things from the lineup in that backstretch of the season from the trade deadline on that makes me feel a little bit better. It showed a lot of deepness in the lineup and a lot of guys that were stepping up. It was basically a different person every single day, whether it was Harrison Bader, whether it was Brandon Marsh, whether it was, you know, even Alec Bohm when he was in the lineup, whether it was a Bryson Stott, whether it was a Weston Wilson, whether it was Max Kepler, Bryce Harper, all these people, right? Everybody was doing their little thing, and it was a different person each and every night. They found ways to win. Good teams find ways to win. And a lot of those wins were in comeback fashion. They you know, come back on the Dodgers bullpen when their starting pitcher maybe allows a couple of more, especially in that Dodgers series where they were down early in those games and they came back against the Dodgers bullpen twice. And when you're looking about that Brewers series that they had, where that really kick-started that run that they went on in September, where they go down very early to Milwaukee, like 5-0, 5-1 or something like that, and then they managed to end up winning that game, and then they eventually would win that series. And that was a huge series win against the Milwaukee Brewers, and that really just kick-started everything going down the stretch where you eventually take 3 of 4 from the Braves, when you sweep a series, a 4-game series against the New York Mets, where you win 2 of 3 against a Los Angeles Dodgers team, where you win 2 of 3 in a Miami, which is in between the Mets and the Dodgers, which would look like a trap series or something like that. There's definitely some intriguing things right there and good series wins that this Phillies team has had. Yeah, they dropped the series in Arizona. That was right after the Dodgers series, but then they just went on in the final 2 series. They won 2 of 2 series and they'll finish off the season against the Miami Marlins and the Minnesota Twins. And granted, those games really didn't mean anything. Realistically, the only game that meant something was the Phillies just trying to get that last win for the bye week, and they eventually did win it. So those games at the end of the day against Miami and against Minnesota, they didn't really mean anything. Now, you had the week off, you had the bye week, you had your inter-squad game that you had yesterday, which was sold out at Citizens Bank Park, which is still crazy to even think about right there. Bryce Harper had a bomb off of Walker Buehler. Jesus Luzardo had 9 strikeouts and 3 innings of work. Overall, there was some good things that came out from the inter-squad game, and just overall, I think it was just really important for this Phillies team to even have that bye week because obviously Trey Turner coming back is very huge, and him getting that extra week of rest would be very huge for him. Same thing, extra week of rest for Bryce Harper, extra week of rest for basically everybody in this lineup, extra weeks of rest for the starting rotation, extra weeks of rest for the bullpen that probably really needs the weeks of rest just because of how much the bullpen probably was used in that back stretch. So it is just huge for this team to get into that situation and get that bye week and now prepare yourself for probably your toughest test in any of these playoff runs. And I think that, you know, if you look at the Phillies basically over the course of the year, if you look at their record against above 500 teams, they're one of the better teams in baseball when it comes to playing against above 500 teams. They beat the Dodgers twice in 2 series, so that was very good. They won a lot of series against the teams above 500, a lot of series wins against teams in playoff, you know, that are in the playoffs right now. So they can play up the teams. It's just really about what you're concerned about is when they play down the teams, and that's what's led to so many playoff frustrations over the past few years, because you play down to the Diamondbacks, you play down to the the New York Mets, but when you had to go into a series where you were considered the underdog, you definitely shocked a lot of people and won those series. 2 series against the Braves. The Padres technically were a better team than you standings-wise when you went on in the NLCS to beat them to go to the World Series. Like I said, the 2 years against the Braves and all that stuff. And technically, you're probably considered underdogs against this Dodger team because a lot of betting people, a lot of sports books out there probably love to bet the Dodgers. They don't count out the Dodgers because obviously reigning World Series champions, the Dodgers have talent throughout their ass at this point. And I think the Dodgers right now are the favorite to win the World Series, like just slight favorites above the Phillies. And the Phillies, I think, are the second favorite to win the World Series. So right now, the Dodgers are probably favorited to win this series. So yeah, you are considered underdogs, and that probably bodes well for you, I guess you could say, at the end of the day, because when it comes to a team that is equal to your caliber or better than their caliber, you play up to them. And I wouldn't doubt the Phillies in their chances to play up to this Dodgers team and give them a run for their money and make this series very entertaining and very interesting. So it's going to be an interesting thing. It definitely will be. Am I guaranteeing that the Phillies are going to win this series? No, because like I said, this is going to be the toughest team that they have faced throughout all of these postseason runs. And sadly, this is a 5-game series because I would love to see this in a 7-game series. I thought that would be more entertaining. Sadly, we get the shortened version of this. And everybody's going to be eyes glued to this series. It's the two best teams basically in baseball at this point playing each other, because basically a lot of people are saying whoever wins this series is most likely going to go on and win the World Series, because that's how high a lot of people are on these two teams, the Dodgers and the Phillies. So this is going to be one for the books. It definitely will be. It should be very entertaining. And we have to see what this Phillies lineup does against this Dodgers starting rotation. If they can get the Dodgers starting pitching out of the game at a reasonable amount. They can't be, getting dominated and having quick innings against Shohei Ohtani to where he's going deep into the ball game. But that also where it comes down to is aggressiveness or over-aggressiveness by the managers. How aggressive is Rob Thompson going to be? How aggressive is Dave Roberts going to be? Because we all know, and I think Dodgers fans all know this as well, even though they won the World Series a couple of times, Dave Roberts tends to overmanage. Dave Roberts tends to have a bad impact on a game where he tries to overmanage. Obviously, when we saw the Phillies and the Dodgers play each other in L.A., Shohei Ohtani was throwing a perfect game through like 5 innings, and then Dave Roberts takes him out of the game. And then the Phillies went on to win that game against the Dodgers bullpen. So even though I don't think Dave Roberts is going to do something as stupid as that, I think it's going to come down to what decisions is Rob Thompson going to make. Is he going to be aggressive in pinch hit situations? Is he going to be aggressive with the bullpen? Is he going to be aggressive? Like, what spots is he going to be? Like, if there's a lefty out there on the mound and Brandon Marsh and or Max Kepler is due up, is he going to pinch hit and bring in Nick Castellanos to face that lefty with maybe a couple of base runners on? Could that be a case or something like that? That's definitely something that you have to point out there. Or does he bring in a Weston Wilson to pinch hit? So these are things that you got to think about. These are things that you got to think about. And I think Rob Thompson is, over the course of the past few years, Phillies fans have complained about some of his managerial decisions. I think Rob has learned from some of those past mistakes. Obviously, when you bring in Jose Alvarado to replace Zach Wheeler in the World Series, Rob Thompson has made some fantastic decisions in playoffs performances as well. So it's definitely a mixed bag right there. But I think Rob is definitely prepared more for this, to be aggressive and have a leash when a player does deserve a leash. Does Christopher Sanchez deserve as long as a leash? Probably, because he's been very good this year. What's the leash going to be like on Jesus Luzardo? What's the leash going to look like on Ranger Suarez? What's the leash going to look like on an Aaron Nola, possibly? I think, realistically, at this point, the only person in the starting rotation that's probably going to have a very long leash is Christopher Sanchez. I would assume that would be the case. And you just go based on how the feeling is with Jesus Luzardo. If Jesus Luzardo is dominating, you keep him in. But if he's getting hit around the bunch, but he's still finding ways to get out of the innings, you probably limit him a little bit there. And then you go to the bullpen. And will there be a situation where Duran has to get 5 outs, get 4 outs, pitch 2 innings or something like that? would Rob be into a situation where he's going to trust his closer to pitch 2 innings and get a 2-inning save? There's a lot of decisions that can go and factor into this series, and it's going to be a very interesting one. It's going to be very interesting. And just looking at the course of the series the entire way, you got 6:30 on Saturday, you got the off day on Sunday, you play at 6:08 on Monday, off day on Tuesday with the travel going back to LA, you play at 9 o'clock on Wednesday, you play at 6 o'clock on Thursday, and then if there is a Game 5, it's on Saturday at 8 o'clock. And I did see that possibly Thursday's game could be pushed back if that's the only game that's playing that day. So it's definitely just a wait-and-see clause right there. But we already know what the Dodgers' rotation is going to look like throughout these first 3 games. It says it right here on ESPN. Ohtani's pitching Game 1, Snell's pitching Game 2, and Yamamoto is pitching Game 3. So I'm assuming that's the way the rotation is going to line up. I'm not sure if Shohei's going to pitch in Game 4 or something like that. Then that sets up Snell for Game 5. I'm not entirely sure. But you would assume right now Christopher Sanchez is the Game 1 starter for the Phillies. It does sound like Jesus Luzardo might be the Game 2 starter. Then you go Ranger Suarez Game 3. Aaron Nola possibly piggybacked by a Walker Buehler in Game 4. I would assume that could be the case. And then you would have Christopher Sanchez set up for Game 5 at Citizens Bank Park in a winner-take-all game. So it's definitely going to be, I would say, a stressful series. It'll be an entertaining series. It'll be an anxiety-filled series. And we'll see where it takes us. We'll see where this journey takes us. Definitely, I've had my doubts about the Phillies the entire year. They showed me something a lot different in that backstretch of the season from the second half on, from the trade deadline on. You know, Harrison Bader has been an amazing pickup for them. It definitely changed the vibes around the clubhouse and just the way the team was, and they really bought into all of that. Now we got to see how this goes. We got to see how this flows in the postseason. What's Trey Turner going to look like off the hamstring? Is Bryce Harper going to be able to fully give you MVP Bryce Harper, which he really hasn't done at all this year? Is Schwarber going to continue with the power surge that he's been on for the entire year? And is the depth of the lineup just going to continue to be solid like it has been for the entire season as well? Like a Brandon Marsh, like a Bryson Stott? Is Max Kepler going to, continue his good second half numbers or something like that? Is Nick Castellanos going to be a good platoon bat or something like that? JT Realmuto, can he find a way to wake up his bat fully or go on like a hot streak like a JT Realmuto? We all know he can. So many question marks that we don't know what's going to happen, but we know the Phillies play up to their competition when it's a team that is considered better than them. And obviously going into this series, the Phillies are not favored. The Dodgers are favored. And what's really important for this series for the Phillies is you need to win Game 1. You need to win Game 1 with Christopher Sanchez on the mound, because that can set a tone. That could really dictate what this series is going to be. And if you lose Game 1, it really does not set a good tone for you, because then you would have to find a way to win Game 2 in Philadelphia. Then you have to survive winning 1 game in Dodger Stadium, most likely to try to force it back to at least a Game 5. That's what you would need to do. But first and foremost, you need to win Game 1. You need to win tomorrow night. And personally, in my opinion, I think you need to win all your home games. You do. You need to win the first 2 home games. Game 1 is really important, but I do think you need to win, because both of these teams are really good at home. The Phillies, obviously, one of the best teams in baseball at home. Same thing with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Home games are going to be very important, and that's a good thing that you do have home field advantage. Now, are the Dodgers going to be shook by the atmosphere of Citizens Bank Park? I'm not entirely sure. I don't think they played an atmosphere like it could be in Citizens Bank Park. Granted, they have played in Yankee Stadium, so you could probably throw that out the tunnel. But if the Phillies, have a sequence where they're hot, Citizens Bank Park gets loud, it's basically an earthquake in there where the sound is just completely destroying the monitors that read the sound, and the Dodgers, I don't know, maybe they get into the Dodgers' heads or something, and it's Shohei Ohtani. I believe this is the first game Shohei Ohtani is actually going to pitch. I don't think he's ever pitched in a postseason game. Well, granted, last year was his first postseason, so no, he's never pitched in a MLB postseason game, so we'll see where that is. I know he's pitched in a World Baseball Classic, but I don't think that's to the same extent as the postseason for the baseball. So we'll see what Shohei Ohtani is like in Citizens Bank Park in October, because this will be his first game pitching in the postseason. It's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be fun, and I I don't want to make predictions just because they always come back to bite me in the ass. I'll say this: if the Phillies win this series, they win in 5. If the Dodgers win the series, they win in 4. That's what for those two teams. Phillies win in 5 or Dodgers win in 4. That's the way I'll go. That's the way I'll go. And we'll see where that takes us. Definitely will be riding the really high and low roller coasters throughout this playoff run, however long it's going to be. Hopefully they give us something that we know, because, yeah, I do believe that if the Phillies can beat the Dodgers, I do think they can go far. I do think they can go on and win a World Series, because realistically, after the Dodgers, there's really no other team that you would be fully afraid of, I guess you could say. The Phillies would be considered. I know they would possibly, if they were to play the Brewers in the NLCS, they wouldn't have home field advantage. The Brewers would have the home field advantage because they're the best record in baseball. I'm still not that high on the Brewers. Realistically, I'm just not. I'm not. So, and who knows? Maybe the Cubs can find a way to upset them. You never know. And then you would have the home field advantage against the Cubs, and I would be very confident against the Cubs. So, and in the World Series, I'm not really sure who comes out of the American League. It's really just a coin flip. I think it's going to be Yankees and Mariners in the ALCS. A lot of people think the Mariners are going to go to the World Series, but when was the last time the Mariners been? I don't think the Mariners have ever been to a World Series before. I don't think they have. So we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see, because that'll be a very big hump for that franchise to get over. So, but yeah, I'll stand to that prediction. If the Phillies win this series, they win in 5. If the Dodgers win this series, they win in 4. That's what I think. And I think Game 1 is just so crucial. Game 1 is so crucial. It really just is. You have to win the game when Christopher Sanchez is pitching. You need to. You got to find a way to get Shohei Ohtani out of the game early, or whether that's just hitting him out of the game early. You never know. Got to do it. Got to do it. So we do have a voicemail on the Anytime Hotline for this series. We might as well get to that before we end it off. We do have a few comments in here. So we'll get to that. We got a couple of guys in the comment section right here. My chat isn't popping up on OBS, probably because I didn't update OBS, but I do see you guys here on the other side. So we'll get to this call from Sean, and then we'll get to you guys in the comments, and then we'll wrap it up. And I got to go finish some more work. So let's get to it.
Red October starts tomorrow. Kind of wish it started tonight. Not a lot going on other than the Gavin McKenna watch that starts early. So as far as this series, look, I'll give you some key words and things that I'm looking forward to. First of all, as always, number 1 is fundamentals. Can this team play fundamental baseball? I think they're going to struggle with Ohtani, but can they cash in when opportunities present themselves? Number 2, defend. The one advantage that the Phillies have in this series is they're the home team. They don't have to win in Los Angeles. The Dodgers have to win in Philadelphia. I think if the Dodgers do win a game in Philly, the series is over. I don't know if we can win in L.A. with their pitching and with our bats' propensity to go quiet, especially on the road. I think it's imperative that the Phillies hold serve at all. And then, just other than that, just be solid. I mean, you have to be solid running the bases. Christopher Sanchez and company have to be solid on the mound. This team has to hit. They have to find a way. There's no more excuses now. This is pretty much the same lineup that we've rolled for the last 4 to 5 years. Get out there and get it done, because like I said before, anything less than a World Series title is failure, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said right there. And granted, if the Phillies weren't not to go deep into the playoffs once again, I'm sure they will have some type of changes in the offseason, but that's another discussion for another day. But yeah, play fundamentally sound. You got to find a way to get to this Dodgers starting pitching. And yeah, home field advantage is going to be very crucial in this series, and that's a good thing that you have home field advantage. And realistically, you'll only have to win the games on your home turf. But yeah, like I said, Game 1 is very crucial. Game 1 is so crucial. You have to win Game 1 because that sets a huge tone for the series. It really just does. If the bats come out hitting, Ohtani, Christopher Sanchez dominates, that probably puts a lot of pressure on the Dodgers. And I think people also don't realize too, the Dodgers, there's so many comments out there about, Dave Roberts, people talking to him about this, like, oh, like, are you shocked that you teams never faced each other in the postseason or something like that? And Dave Roberts says, oh, I'm thankful that we haven't met each other in the postseason because the Dodgers know the Phillies are a good team. It's like, it's just us here in the city of Philadelphia. We watch this team so much that we know the tendencies of this team to let us down. And there's a lot of bad feelings about that. But there's a lot of, high praise for this Phillies team around Major League Baseball. So many executives say that this team probably is the World Series favorite, the Phillies that is. And there's definitely something to that. And maybe they can prove a lot of Philadelphia people wrong. This playoff will go on a deep run, or they continue to prove them right. So it really goes into that mindset. I wouldn't be shocked if they went on a deep run and won a World Series. I wouldn't be shocked if they lost in this series to LA. It's as simple as that. That's why I'm sticking to, if the Phillies win this series, they win in 5. If the Dodgers win this series, they win in 4. And Game 1 is so crucial. Game 1 is so crucial. So, to you guys in the comments, bring on the defending champs regardless of how we feel about this Phillies team. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're, scared about going into this playoff series, gotta get a dog. Gotta get a dog. We got this. Dodgers bullpen is buns. Did you see the pyro in center field the Phillies are going to use during Duran's entrance? I did hear about that. I didn't see it. That definitely will be something. I have more confidence in Rob Thompson this time around. There you go. I do have confidence in Rob Thompson. I definitely do. I think he's more prepared for this now. Who else is laughing at the Mets? Did you see the new urinating tree Mets video? I did not. I did not yet. I'm definitely going to be very looking forward to that later on. But yeah, the Mets choking their playoff spot away. Always hilarious. Always fucking hilarious. Always great. Always great. So, let's see. Anything else? No? Don't think there is. Don't think there is. So, that'll do it for tonight, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. I probably will go live during the game. Maybe we'll do the same thing that we did the past couple of years. Maybe, maybe not. It just depends on how everything goes. So, I'll wait, we'll wait and see play by ear. If we don't go live during the game tomorrow, we'll just go live after the game and all that stuff. So, it just depends on what I'm doing throughout the day. So, keep you guys posted. You'll see it in the subscription feed. Thanks, guys, for tuning into tonight. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. And also use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Go Phils. We'll see what they provide us this week. Playoffs. It's been a long ride to get here, but we're finally here. We'll see where it takes us. Thanks, guys.